And today it is my great delight and privilege to introduce to you a very special guest. Actually, she needs no introduction because you've seen her picture in newspapers and magazines for many, many years now.
Ooh,
I would love to present to you Mrs. Barbara Bush. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for letting me. But I certainly hope they haven't seen me in magazines and newspapers a lot.
I mean, in a very complimentary way. Being the wife of the Vice President of the United States, you know, we admire you. And I have to say that when I met you, it was a great delight to me to be able to really meet you.
That's so nice.
With your husband's choice of vocation, he's away a good deal, and you have 5 children. How in the world, Mrs. Bush, were you able to maintain sort of a balance of family life with him coming and going? You have 5 children here. How could you do this?
Well, of course, I don't have 5 children anymore, sad to say. They're all married and gone. But when they were young, George, you know, was in the business world, and he started a business, and he did travel a lot. And then later he got into Congress and different jobs. And when they were young, we just had to choose for me to stay home. And sometimes I will confess that I felt sort of left out and lonely. But think what I've been able to do since the children grew up. So I would say to any of your listeners who occasionally, and I certainly understand it, get depressed when their husband or their wife, I guess these days, is off doing wonderful, glamorous things, your day will come.
If you could, of course you will be through our television audience this week, speak to many young women today who are mothers and who are rearing little ones right now, and they might be discouraged at times. What advice would you give them, Barbara?
It would be very hard to give others advice, but I would certainly say these are the most valuable years of your children's life. Absolutely now. So don't begrudge them the time you have to spend at home with them. First of all, they can be a lot of fun and very funny, and I know how tired they get and how longing they are for the more exciting, thrilling things. But just remember, it's so short, and there's just no question. Every study in the world tells you that those first 6 years are the most important years in your child's life for getting a good start, reading, getting into the system for a happy, strong life. So I would say just do it, and do it with great love in your heart, because you're doing the most wonderful thing you can do for your children, your husband, your country, your God, for everybody.
Did you try, with 5 children in the house, did you try to spend a little time with each one each day? Or did you try to pick out special days?
Oh, I'd love to tell you I did that, but no, I just barely kept my head above water most of the time. We had 4 boys. We had 1 boy who was 7 years older because of the gap in our little family, and then 3 boys right in a row. I was just lucky to get them all fed, cleaned, out and in and bedded and everything else, and I was tired a lot, but I tried, but I don't think I did a very good job of that. But you see, one of the things, in fact, I think you can only give your children 3 things, really, that count in life. I think you can give them a good education. I think that's very important, and you're a major part of that as a mother.
Yes.
And father. And I think you can set a good example. And I think that's a large part what George did for us. He set a better example than I did, probably, of fairness and calmness and decency and honesty. And then I think you can give them all the love in the world, and anything else doesn't really count. I mean, I think the example covers a lot, incidentally. But I think if your children see you read, they read. And I think if your children see you go to church, they go to church. And I think if your children see you pray, they pray. And if your children see you be bad and sloppy and unfair and dishonest, they'll do the same things. All tests prove that. So that's all I think you can really do for your children. And then I think you have to be very, very lucky.
I was mentioning a moment ago, looking at you, you seem to be such a happy lady, Barbara.
I am happy.
You're happy.
Yes.
What's your prescription for all this happiness?
Well, not everybody can be as happy as I am. They have to be married to George Bush.
You really mean that, too, don't you?
Oh, you bet I do.
Well, when you were growing up, Barbara, or maybe even when you were a young wife, did you ever dream that you might be
No.
really the wife of the Vice President?
No, I really didn't.
Would it have frightened you? If had you thought...
I wouldn't have believed it, so I wouldn't have. But I have almost all my adult life lived as though today was the day, and I don't worry too much about it. I try to plan ahead, and I'm very organized, I think, but I really believe you ought to live and do your best today because you may not be here tomorrow, and so I don't worry too much.
I must tell you that it has been a great delight for me to meet you. I
love meeting you, too.
And I promise you that we've prayed for you, not without knowing you, but I promise you that we'll continue to pray for your safety and for God's guidance in your life and family.
Thank you.
Lord bless you.